The world's longest undefended border is becoming a political battlefield. This week, tensions between the United States and Canada have reached new heights over migration and border security. From tariff threats to brain drain concerns, the relationship between these neighboring nations is shifting in ways we haven't seen in decades. We're talking about a $910 million security investment, controversial policy directives from Washington, a mass exodus of skilled workers, and everyday citizens on both sides rethinking their relationship with the neighboring country. This isn't just political noise. These developments will have real, tangible impacts on immigration policy, the economy, and the lives of millions of people. I'm your host here in Info Express, and in today's video, we're breaking down everything you need to know about US-Canada migration news from this week. Whether you're considering a move, already living as an immigrant, planning to study abroad, working across the border, or just trying to understand what's happening at the northern border, this affects you. Stick around until the end because I'll be sharing what these changes could mean for your personal situation, whether you're in the US, Canada, or considering a move between them. Let's dive in. The biggest story this week comes from Washington, and it represents a fundamental shift in how the United States approaches immigration policy with its closest allies. The U.S. State Department has directed its embassies in Canada and other Western nations to examine the impacts of mass migration. Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal? Don't they study migration all the time? But here's what makes this different. This isn't just academic research. This is a policy directive that signals the Trump administration views immigration in allied countries as a matter of American national interest and security. But the criticism gets even more direct. Vice President J.D. Vance recently made headlines by openly criticizing Canada's immigration policies. He didn't just express concern, he directly linked them to what he described as declining living standards in Canada. Vance essentially argued that Canada's embrace of high immigration levels has harmed its economy and quality of life for citizens. This is extraordinary. When was the last time you heard a sitting U.S. vice president publicly criticize a close ally's domestic immigration policy? This kind of direct commentary breaks decades of diplomatic norms between these two countries, and here's where it escalates from words to potential economic consequences. President Trump has been using tariff threats as leverage on migration issues. He's explicitly linking potential tariffs on Canadian goods, we're talking about billions of dollars in trade, directly to concerns about drugs and migrants crossing the northern border. Now, let's take a moment to examine the actual data, because context matters here. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection statistics, they seized only 43 pounds of fentanyl at the Canada-U.S. border last year. Keep that number in mind. Now, compare it to the southern border, over 21,000 pounds of fentanyl at the US-Mexico border in the same period. That's not just a difference, that's a ratio of nearly 500 to 1. The northern border accounts for less than 0.2% of fentanyl seizures, yet it's become a major focal point of Trump's border security rhetoric and policy. So what's really going on here? Some analysts suggest this is less about actual border threats and more about the Trump administration establishing a broader narrative about immigration and border control. Others argue it's a negotiating tactic, using tariffs and political pressure to gain concessions from Canada on other issues. Whatever the motivation, the impact is real. The US-Canada relationship is experiencing strain we haven't seen in modern times. Canada isn't taking this lying down, and frankly, they can't afford to. The Canadian government finds itself in a challenging position. How do you respond to pressure from your largest trading partner and closest ally without appearing to cave to bullying or compromising your sovereignty? Their answer came this week with a massive announcement, a $910 million border security plan. Let me put that number in perspective. This isn't routine budget allocation. This is nearly $1 billion in new spending, specifically aimed at addressing concerns about the northern border. So what does $910 million buy you? We're talking about significant investments in cutting-edge surveillance technology. This includes advanced drones capable of monitoring remote border areas that are currently difficult to patrol. We're talking about additional helicopters for rapid response teams. We're talking about upgraded surveillance equipment. Think thermal imaging, advanced sensors, and integrated monitoring systems that can detect unusual border activity. The Canadian government is also hiring more Border Patrol agents, investing in infrastructure improvements at key crossing points, and enhancing cooperation with U.S. border agencies. This is a comprehensive, multi-layered approach to border security, but the response goes beyond just spending money. Canada has introduced new legislation that's making waves, the Strong Borders Act, officially known as Bill C-2. This bill represents some of the most significant changes to Canadian border and asylum policy in years. So what's actually in this bill? First, it tightens asylum rules. Canada has traditionally had a relatively open approach to asylum seekers, but Bill C-2 introduces stricter criteria and faster processing to identify and remove those who don't qualify. Second, it expands border enforcement authority, giving Canadian border officers more tools and legal backing to detain, investigate, and deport individuals who cross illegally. Third, it includes provisions for enhanced information sharing with U.S. authorities, something the Trump administration has been pushing for. Most political analysts and commentators see Bill C-2 as a direct response to pressure from the Trump administration. The timing is too convenient to be coincidental, but Canadian officials are framing it differently. They're emphasizing that this is about Canada taking control of its own borders on its own terms, not about caving to American demands. The message from Ottawa is clear: we hear your concerns, we're taking border security seriously, but we're doing this because it's right for Canada, not because we're being told to. Whether that distinction matters to Washington remains to be seen. There's also a domestic political calculation here. Prime Minister Trudeau's government has faced increasing criticism at home about immigration and border management. Some Canadians feel the country has been too permissive, while others worry about the brain drain we'll discuss next. Bill C-2 is an attempt to show action and regain control of the narrative. Here's a story that isn't dominating headlines, but it absolutely should be because it has profound implications for Canada's future. A new report released this week reveals something that should alarm Canadian policymakers at every level of government. Highly educated and highly skilled immigrants are leaving Canada at twice the rate of those with less education and lower skills. Let me say that again because it's critical. The most educated, most skilled immigrants, the people Canada worked hardest to attract, are leaving at double the rate of other immigrants. Think about what Canada's immigration system is designed to do. For decades, Canada has built a reputation as one of the world's premier destinations for skilled workers. The country uses a points-based system that explicitly favors education, work experience, language skills, and professional credentials. The whole system is designed to attract doctors, engineers, tech workers, business leaders, people who can immediately contribute to the economy and help drive innovation and growth. And it's worked. Canada has successfully attracted talented people from around the world. But here's the problem. Attracting talent is only half the battle. You also have to retain that talent, and that's where the system is failing. The sectors being hit hardest by this exodus tell the story. Business professionals, particularly those in finance and management, are leaving. IT workers and tech specialists are leaving. Engineers across multiple disciplines are leaving. Healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, specialists are leaving. These are exactly the fields where Canada faces labor shortages and needs skilled workers to support economic growth and an aging population. So where are they going? Many are heading south to the United States. The reasons are complex but boil down to a few key factors. First, compensation. Tech workers in Silicon Valley or Seattle can often earn 2 or 3 times what they'd make in Toronto or Vancouver, even accounting for cost of living differences. Second, career advancement opportunities. The United States has deeper job markets in many specialized fields, offering more options for career growth. Third, and this is increasingly important, frustration with quality of life issues in Canada, housing affordability, healthcare wait times, and yes, the very immigration pressures that brought them to Canada in the first place. Here's the bitter irony. Some immigrants came to Canada seeking a better life, only to find that rapid population growth, driven partly by immigration itself, has contributed to housing unaffordability, strained infrastructure, and increased competition for services. After struggling for a few years, some decide the grass really is greener elsewhere, often in the United States. This brain drain raises profound questions about Canada's immigration strategy. Is the country doing enough to retain the talent it works so hard to attract? Are there systemic issues, housing policy, tax structure, healthcare capacity, career opportunities that need to be addressed? Or is this just the natural flow of talent in a globalized economy? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. If Canada can't figure out how to keep its skilled immigrants, the entire immigration system's value proposition comes into question. You can't build an economy on revolving door immigration, where people arrive, struggle for a few years, and then leave. The political tensions between the United States and Canada aren't just affecting policy, they're changing how everyday citizens view each other's countries. Let's start with a uniquely Canadian phenomenon: snowbirds. For those unfamiliar, snowbirds are typically older Canadians who spend harsh winter months in warmer United States states: Florida, Arizona, California, Texas. This has been a tradition for decades, with hundreds of thousands of Canadians making the annual migration south. It's such a significant phenomenon that entire communities in Florida and Arizona cater specifically to Canadian snowbirds. But this year, something's different. Travel agencies and surveys are reporting that Canadian snowbirds are rethinking their traditional winter escapes to the United States. Some are citing political tensions and concerns about how Canadians might be treated in the current political climate. Others mention tariff disputes and economic uncertainty making them reconsider spending thousands of dollars in the United States. And some simply say they're uncomfortable with the direction of American politics and would rather spend their money elsewhere. Where are they going instead? Mexico is seeing a surge in Canadian winter visitors. The Caribbean is also benefiting. Some are even exploring European options, despite the longer travel time. This represents a real economic shift. We're talking about billions of dollars in spending that traditionally went to United States border states now potentially flowing elsewhere. Now let's look at movement in the opposite direction, because there's a completely different story happening with Americans considering moves to Canada. This isn't about snowbirds or winter vacations. This is about people contemplating permanent relocation. Immigration lawyers and consultants in Canada report increased inquiries from Americans, particularly from specific demographics. LGBTQ+ individuals and families are expressing concerns about legal protections and social acceptance under the current United States administration. Some clergy members and religious leaders who hold progressive views are exploring options in Canada where they feel their values might be more aligned with national policy. We've seen this pattern before. After previous United States elections, there are always spikes in Americans expressing interest in moving to Canada. Usually, very few actually follow through. Moving countries is complicated, expensive, and emotionally difficult. But immigration consultants say this time feels different. More people are following through beyond the initial inquiry stage, actually starting applications and making concrete plans. This represents a fascinating role reversal. Historically, brain drain has been Canada's problem, with talented Canadians moving to the United States for better opportunities. Now we're seeing a countercurrent, even if it's smaller in scale, of Americans seeking what they perceive as a more stable, progressive, or welcoming environment in Canada. These shifting sentiments on both sides of the border reveal something important. The United States-Canada relationship isn't just about government policy and trade agreements. It's about how millions of individuals perceive each other's countries as places to live, work, visit, and build lives. And right now, that perception is changing in significant ways. So, where does all this lead? Let's think through the potential scenarios and implications of what we're seeing unfold. Scenario 1. Escalation and continued tension. If the Trump administration continues to pressure Canada on migration and border issues, and if Canada responds with measures that Trump views as insufficient, we could see actual tariffs imposed. This would trigger economic consequences for both countries: higher prices for consumers, disrupted supply chains, job losses in trade-dependent sectors. The United States-Canada relationship could enter a period of sustained strain not seen since disputes over trade in the 1980s. Scenario 2. Negotiated resolution. Alternatively, both countries could use this tension as a catalyst for serious negotiations on border security, immigration cooperation, and information sharing. Canada's $910 million investment and Bill C-2 could be seen as good faith efforts that lead to de-escalation. Trump could declare victory, Canada could maintain sovereignty, and both sides could move forward with enhanced cooperation. Scenario 3. Long-term realignment. The most interesting scenario is whether this represents a fundamental shift in how these countries relate to each other. If Canada's brain drain continues and accelerates, if American sentiment toward Canada hardens, if Canadian sentiment toward the United States becomes more negative, we could be witnessing the early stages of a genuine realignment in North American relations. For immigrants and prospective immigrants, the implications are significant. If you're in Canada, on a work permit or temporary status, pay attention to how Bill C-2 develops and whether enforcement becomes stricter. If you're a skilled worker considering Canada, factor in the retention issues, and ask yourself whether you'll be part of the brain drain statistics in a few years. If you're an American considering a move to Canada, understand that while there's interest and opportunity, Canada is also dealing with its own challenges around housing, healthcare capacity, and economic pressures. One thing seems certain: the era of taking the United States-Canada relationship for granted is over, at least for now. The world's longest undefended border is becoming more defined, more monitored, and more politicized. Whether that's good or bad depends on your perspective, but it's undeniably a change. So what does all this mean for you personally? If you're considering immigration between these countries, now is the time to pay very close attention to how these policies develop over the coming weeks and months. The landscape is changing rapidly, and what's true today might not be true 6 months from now. Consider consulting with immigration lawyers who specialize in United States-Canada issues to understand how these changes might affect your specific situation. If you're already an immigrant in either country, understand that the political climate is shifting, and it could affect future policy decisions on work permits, permanent residency pathways, and citizenship requirements. Stay informed about policy changes, maintain proper documentation, and if you're on temporary status, consider whether it's time to pursue permanent residency before rules potentially tighten. If you're a business owner with cross-border operations, start scenario planning for potential tariffs or increased border friction. Diversification and flexibility will be key if trade relations become more complicated. And if you're just a concerned citizen watching all this unfold, remember that these aren't just political talking points or abstract policy debates. These decisions affect real families, real careers, and real lives on both sides of the border. If you found this deep dive helpful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell. I cover United States-Canada migration news every week, providing in-depth analysis that goes beyond the headlines. You don't want to miss what happens next in this evolving story. Drop a comment below and let me know. What do you think about these border tensions? Are Trump's concerns justified, or is this political theater? Is Canada doing enough to address the brain drain? And if you're an immigrant in either country, how are these developments affecting your plans? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Some of the best insights come from the community, so let's have a real conversation in the comments. And if you know someone who's considering a move between the United States and Canada, or who's already navigating the immigration system, share this video with them. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to making life-changing immigration decisions. The United States-Canada relationship has always been held up as a model of peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation. The world's longest undefended border, 8,891 kilometers or 5,525 miles, has been a symbol of trust, shared values, and friendship between two nations that have far more in common than divides them. But this week's news demonstrates that even the strongest relationships can face significant strain when politics, economics, and migration policy intersect. We're seeing pressure from Washington, defensive responses from Ottawa, talent flowing out of Canada, and changing sentiments among citizens on both sides of the border. The question we should all be asking isn't just what happens next, but what kind of relationship do we want between these countries? Do we want borders that are increasingly militarized and monitored, or borders that facilitate legitimate travel and trade while addressing genuine security concerns? Do we want immigration systems that attract and retain global talent, or revolving doors that fail to offer stable futures? Do we want political leaders who use border issues as leverage and talking points, or leaders who work collaboratively to solve shared challenges? The answers to these questions will shape North America for decades to come. They'll determine economic opportunities, influence where people choose to live and work, and ultimately define what it means to be neighbors in an increasingly complex world. I'm your host here at Info Express, and I'll be here every week bringing you the latest developments in United States-Canada migration news with the depth and analysis you need to truly understand what's happening. These issues are too important to rely on sound bites and headlines. We need to dig deeper, look at the data, consider multiple perspectives, and think about long-term implications. Thanks for watching, for engaging thoughtfully with this content, and for being part of a community that values informed discussion about immigration and border issues. I'll see you next week with more migration news that matters. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's keep this conversation going.